Don't look to our circumstance, but look to how big our God is. Now, with all natural feelings and affections and whatever you might want to add to it, it looked like there was no hope. No wonder, we'll not get into every little area of this, but no wonder the Israelites were kind of pushed down in the valley and scared and afraid. They had seen this man come out for 40 days and 40 nights, bragging and boasting, I want a man to fight with me. But Israel had been intimidated to the point that they were fearful and frustrated, and therefore they thought what we're going to do is just back down in the valley, and maybe, just maybe, one of these days he'll get tired and he'll leave us alone, and then we'll crawl out and we'll venture on and we'll do our business later. But God wanted to prove a point to Israel, that regardless of the battle, regardless of how big their problem was, and they had a big problem, I guarantee you, regardless of how big it was and how bad it looked, God was going to prove to Israel that I can take care of your problem. Now, each one of us that's sitting here tonight in the building, if we could go back and we could recall, there's been moments in our life, there's been times in our life when it looked like there were giants and there were Goliaths in the midst of us, and there was no way that we could overcome these things that we are battling. But God, some way and somehow, miraculously, by His great providential power, God brought us through. Even though we looked at things that seemed like there was no way this can be worked out. This problem is so big and so big that maybe God can't work it out. But as we waited upon the Lord, as David tells us to, as we waited upon God, we saw how God, some way, somehow, providentially intervened and made a way where there was no way. And we came out victorious. But now get a picture with me tonight for just a few moments. Here's the Israelites back down in the valley. Here's Goliath of Gath coming out. Amen. Already suited up for war. He's ready. He's already taken the point that I'm going to win this battle. There's nobody in the army of Israel that can stand against me. I've been coming out for so many days, and nobody has ever made the challenge. But, you know, God's always had somebody that will pick up the torch. God has always had somebody that would be brave and stand on the front line. And listen to me, church. I don't know who it might be. God may ask one of us one of these days to stand on the front line. There is a battle. Paul tells us, and we're going to get in that in just a few moments, but Paul tells us that we're in a battle. We're in a spiritual battle every day of our life. And the enemy, as Joyce said earlier, the enemy is out to kill, steal, and destroy. He's out to intimidate. He's out to pull us down. He's out to make us believe that we have to run with worry and fear and frustration, and we cannot trust God. But we're going to see that God can pull this thing out. God had already for some time had been raising up David for this hour. David didn't know it back yonder watching the sheep. He didn't know that night when the lion and the bear came out and roared against the flock of the sheep and took one, and David ran to them and brought the lamb back and destroyed the lion and the bear. David didn't know that God was grooming him and preparing him for this day, an adventure that he was going to face Goliath. Now we wonder sometimes why that God takes us through the hard places of life. We wonder why that we go through the hard knocks, and we wonder why that fear and frustration and things of that nature want to upset us and pull us down. But listen to me, church. There's a reason God is preparing us. We don't like to go through those times. We don't like to go through those disappointing times of life. We want everything out in the open, don't we? We don't want anything in the shadows. We don't want anything covered up. We want everything open so we can see it. But sometimes, just sometimes, God says, I'm going to hide a few things for a while. I'm going to take you through that problem. I'm going to take you through that trial. I'm going to make you bold and brave and strong, because there's coming a day that you're really going to face the biggest battle of your life. And I'm telling you tonight, church, if you haven't met that battle, if you haven't been in that battle, the biggest battle of your life, you're going to one of these days. You're going to face something that seems like there is no way out. It's certainly impossible. You can pray and seem like God's a million miles away. You can pray until it seems like that heaven has turned to brass. There's no way of getting your answer through, but don't worry. God is doing something. Amen. God may hide things for a while, but he's about to come on the scene. And when God comes on the scene, there's nothing too great, too big for God. He'll always make a way where there is no way. Satan had nearly had the victory, the one based on fear and intimidation.